Hello and welcome to Pushing Back, Ukraine Daily Brief. As the war enters its 1092nd day, these are the main developments from the past 24 hours. The update from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Russia has lost approximately 862,390 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of the war. The number includes 1,300 casualties over the past day. According to the released Ukrainian figures, Russia lost 19 tanks, 23 armored combat vehicles, 72 artillery systems, 3 multiple launch rocket systems, 4 air defense systems, 175 drones, 146 vehicles and 1 piece of special equipment. In the last 24 hours the Russians launched 106 combat clashes and carried out 64 airstrikes including 91 guided bombs on the territory of Ukraine. They also used 11-22 kamikaze drones and carried out around 4,300 attacks on the positions of Ukrainian troops and settlements using various types of weapons. In its latest intelligence update, the Institute for the Study of War. Russian and American officials met in Saudi Arabia for bilateral talks about the war in Ukraine on February 18, but Russia continues to display no indications that it is prepared to make any meaningful concessions on Ukraine as assessed by Western intelligence and U.S. officials in line with ISW's long-standing assessment. Many recent Russian statements show that the Kremlin remains uninterested in engaging in good faith negotiations and retains his objective of destroying the Ukrainian state, while the Kremlin has offered no public indication that it would materially compromise. Many recent Russian statements show that Putin remains uninterested in engaging in good faith negotiations and retains his objective of destroying the Ukrainian state, while the Kremlin has offered no public indication that it would materially compromise. Russian officials at the bilateral meeting continued to signal the Kremlin's unwillingness to negotiate on the war in Ukraine and determination to achieve its maximalist objectives in Ukraine. Zelensky, in contrast to Kremlin officials, continues to demonstrate Ukraine's willingness to compromise to bring about an enduring end to the war. Russian officials in Saudi Arabia began what will likely be an ongoing effort to push the United States into accepting Russian offers of economic and investment measures in lieu of any actual Russian concessions on Ukraine. Dmitriev attempted to frame Russian-offered economic incentives as more beneficial for the US than for Russia, but in reality Russia needs economic relief as soon as possible to stave off looming crises in 2025 and 2026. US officials continue to meet with European leaders about support for Ukraine. Russian forces recently advanced near Borova, Toretsk, and Velika Novosilka. A Russian mill blogger and former Storm Z instructor continued to complain that the Russian military command's lack of response to systemic issues is limiting Russian advances near Pokrovsk. Russian opposition outlet SOTA reported on February 18 that Republic of Mordovia head Artyom Stunov announced that regional authorities are raising one-time payments for recruits who sign a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense from $4,369 to $12,015. Russian forces continue to deploy wounded and medically unfit soldiers to the front line in an effort to address personnel shortages. In President Zelensky's nightly address, he spoke about 3 key areas. Firstly, Ukraine's military readiness and U.S. support. President Zelensky received updates on the front line and the Kursk operation, affirming Ukraine's defensive strength. Talks with U.S. Envoy General Kellogg are set to focus on strengthening cooperation with America and Europe to secure lasting peace. Secondly, diplomatic efforts with NATO and European leaders. Zelensky held discussions with NATO Secretary General Rutte, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, and French President Macron, emphasizing the importance of security guarantees and continued international support ahead of key negotiations. Lastly, humanitarian and infrastructure recovery. Following Russian strikes on Odessa, over 80,000 people remain without electricity and heating. Zelensky assured ongoing repair efforts and stressed the need for unity among Ukrainians and international partners in rebuilding and securing Ukraine's future. Thanks for following today's updates. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. We'll return tomorrow with the latest news on the ongoing conflict.